Welcome to another story made by Oracle 1. The sun dipped low over the endless veldt, its dying light casting a golden haze that shimmered across the dry, war-torn landscape. The air carried a faint scent of smoke and wild grass, mingled with the distant murmur of gunfire that never truly faded. In a small, battered prison camp near Bloemfontein, Captain James Ashcroft sat on the hard wooden bench of his cell, his hands bound but his spirit unbroken. The Second Boer War had roared across South Africa for nearly 3 years, tearing lives apart and leaving scars on the land and its people alike. James had been captured during a daring raid behind Boer lines, and now, confined to this grim enclosure, he pondered the slim chances of escape. But fortune, like the shifting winds over the veldt, is unpredictable. James was a man shaped by the discipline of the British Army but tempered by a growing empathy for the complexity of South Africa's struggle. He had arrived in the Cape Colony with a sense of duty and pride. To him, the empire was unassailable, its cause just. Yet, as bullets whipped past him and neighbors turned into foes, he questioned the simplicity of black and white. The Boers, fiercely independent Afrikaner farmers, fought with a tenacity born of homeland love and resilience. They knew every hillock and crevice of their terrain. To the British soldiers, they were rebels and guerrilla fighters. To themselves, freedom fighters defending hearth and heritage. In his dim cell, James heard footsteps approaching. The clinking of keys, the scrape of boots on gravel. The door creaked open, revealing a slender figure cloaked in the fading light. A woman whose presence seemed at odds with the harshness surrounding them. Her dark eyes held a spark of defiance, her auburn hair loosely pinned beneath a faded headscarf. She was dressed modestly but with a quiet dignity that hinted at more than her humble appearance suggested. Her name was Alana van der Merwe. Alana's farm had been ravaged by war just months before. Her family displaced, crops burned, and her world turned to chaos. But unlike many who retreated into despair or bitterness, Alana had chosen a different path. She moved stealthily through the countryside, a shadow among the pines and thorn bushes, speaking words of hope and comfort to the sick and wounded. She had come to know the beautiful brutality of this land and the tangled histories of those who fought upon it. Her secret was heavier than the bundle she carried beneath her shawl. Hidden deep in the folds of cloth was a coded map, a key to safe passage through Boer lines for those desperate to reach neutral territory, or disappear altogether. The map was a prize sought by many. British officers eager for freedom, Boer commandos hunting traitors, and mercenaries willing to profit from betrayal. But James did not know this yet. To him, Alana was simply the ethereal helper who had appeared at his cell one evening with a single message. "There is a way out, if you trust me." Their first meeting was swift but intense. James had heard rumors of a woman who moved unseen around the camp, slipping through shadows, leaving food or water for the weak prisoners. At first, suspicion ruled him. Who would risk everything for a stranger, especially an enemy? But Alana's resolve was unmistakable, and she carried with her a quiet authority that transcended the boundaries of war. "Why help me?" James asked, narrowing his eyes under the dim lantern light. Alana's lips curved into a faint smile, but her gaze remained unwavering. "Because this war is bigger than British or Boer. Because I believe no life should be imprisoned, especially not for a cause that consumes everything but survival." She knelt beside his cell and slipped a small bundle through the bars. A tarp soaked in ointments and a sharpened bone knife, tools for a desperate escape. "Tonight, when the camp sleeps, I'll come to you." James studied her, his mind racing. Trusting a stranger in these conditions was suicide, yet an edge of hope lit inside his chest. Perhaps this was the moment fate offered him a chance to rewrite the ending. Night came wrapped in heavy silence, broken only by the distant howls of jackals. James kept his breath shallow and his movements slow, waiting for the signal Alana had promised. Just as the moon carved slivers of silver across the camp's wooden fences, a shadow detached from a near wall. She whispered, voice hushed but intense, "Follow me. Stay close." Together, they slipped into the darkness, weaving between guards and searchlights, hearts pounding with every crunch of dry earth underfoot. Alana led James along paths she had mapped in her mind since the war's outbreak, hidden hollows and forgotten trails through the thornbush labyrinths. Every step was a gamble. Capture meant death or worse. As they traveled, a fragile trust formed between prisoner and guide. James learned that Alana had once been engaged to a Boer commando, a man lost in one of the many skirmishes. Her secrets were not just survival tactics, but stories of love, loss, and the tangled loyalties of a divided land. "Why do you carry that map?" James finally asked, breaking the silence as dawn threatened to creep over the horizon. Alana pulled the bundle tighter beneath her shawl. "Because it's the only way I can fight, for those like you trapped by this war, and for my people, caught between past and future. Freedom does not come from allegiance to a flag, but from breaking the chains that bind us." Their flight led them deeper into the South African desert, far from the prying eyes of soldiers and spies. The map guided them through mountain passes and over rivers swollen by recent rains. Occasionally, Alana paused, scanning the horizon with a miner's sharp eyes, alert to danger. One morning, as the sun rose behind towering kopjes, the pair stumbled upon a hidden Boer outpost. Men with rifles stationed in a crude encampment eyed them suspiciously. James's heartbeat quickened, capture seemed inevitable. Yet Alana moved with poise, speaking in Afrikaans, her tone laced with authority. After tense minutes, the men lowered their weapons, recognizing Alana as one of their own. James realized then how much she had risked, not just for him but to navigate loyalties. The outpost commander, a grizzled man with eyes like steel, nodded curtly and offered them horses. "Ride hard and fast," Alana warned him in their shared tongue. "The British will be looking for him, and the war still rages. But this passage will lead to the railhead beyond the Wittebergen, where safety waits." On horseback, the journey gained urgency. Every hoofbeat was a drum of freedom, every mile a step closer to salvation. Yet, Alana's face shadowed with worry. The war had changed her, toughened her, but it also consumed what little peace remained. James, growing stronger with each day, saw in her a complex tapestry of endurance and pain. She was not the simple woman he'd envisioned at the prison gate but a fierce guardian of secrets and hope. As they neared the rim of the Drakensberg Mountains, where British lines and Boer positions blurred, a sudden gunshot shattered the morning calm. Outlaws, bandits preying on the chaos of war, emerged from the bush, intent on capturing their horses and supplies. A desperate skirmish ensued. James, weaponless but quick-witted, grabbed a fallen branch to fend off an attacker. Alana fought beside him, wielding her knife with deadly precision. The fight was brutal and swift, but their combined will drove the bandits back into the shadows. That night, beneath a sky blazing with stars, there was no talk of maps or escape. Only the shared burden of survival and whispered stories that built a fragile kinship. Finally, the railway station at Bethune came into view like a beacon of hope. It was guarded, but far less rigid than the military camps. British sympathizers and some Boer defectors operated there, facilitating the escape of captured soldiers and displaced civilians. Alana handed James a folded piece of paper, worn at the edges but alive with promise. "This will get you a ticket back to Cape Town. From there, you can return home, or you can choose to stay, to help those still caught in the war." James folded the note carefully. "What about you?" She smiled sadly. "My place is here. Behind the lines, in shadows where the war's secrets live. But maybe one day, when this violence ends, I'll find my own freedom." Their parting was bittersweet. At the platform, the whistle of the approaching train blew like a call to destiny. James grasped Alana's hand, the warmth between them a stark contrast to the cold of the metal rails. As the train pulled away, James watched her silhouette recede into the folds of the landscape, a South African woman carrying the fragile promise of hope amid ruin and betrayal. He understood then that the war was not just a conflict of armies, but a battle of hearts and histories, of broken loyalties and the indomitable human spirit. Years later, in the calm after the storm of the Anglo-Boer conflict, Captain James Ashcroft would tell the tale of his escape. Yet, he never spoke openly of the woman who saved him, Alana van der Merwe, a guardian of secrets who vanished into the South African night like a whispered legend. Occasionally, he received letters, brief and cryptic, bearing the scent of wildflowers and dust. They spoke of healing and struggle, of farms reclaimed and new hopes rising from the ashes. Alana's story was woven into the fabric of the land, a testament to resistance, sacrifice, and the quiet courage of those who dared to cross the boundaries set by war. The Second Boer War ended with treaties and uneasy peace, but the shadows of conflict lingered in the veldt and in the hearts of those who had survived. Among them, Captain James carried the memory of a South African woman with fiery eyes and a fierce spirit, whose courage had altered his fate. In the vast tapestry of history, their paths converged briefly but left an indelible mark, one of compassion amidst cruelty, alliance amidst enmity, and hope amid despair. For more stories, like and subscribe.